One, go.
Hello, and welcome to Hello Mainstreet, where we talk about thought provoking business tips for fellow entrepreneurs. I am your host, Monica Sanchez, and I have my co host here, Tony White, coming straight from you from the heart of Central Washington. I hope this will give you extra spice to inspire you to take the next step forward in your business. And today we have Robert Lewis. He is the owner and a business attorney for Lexpedient. And so we like to welcome you, Tony, and love to learn more about you and your business and how can you help us entrepreneurs to stay out of hot water. That's the topic for the
You're,
day.
you're welcoming Tony, but not me.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Yeah, it's Robert.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I not say
Robert.
Robert?
You-
I did say
you see
Lexpedient.
There's a name right here.
Okay, Robert, I apologize so much. So
That's okay.
Yes.
That's all right. No problem. So what can
just
I?
keeping
Yeah.
you on your toes.
Yeah. Well, somebody needs to. So yes. So thanks for having me. It's wonderful to be here, and I enjoy it. Being able to talk about my passion and what I like to do in life, and helping others. So, what can I do? What do you have any questions for me?
I do. So let's talk about. I know you have a background, right? So you've been an attorney for quite some time. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, okay. Now you said I have a background, so it makes me sound like I was, in prison or something like that. But, I want to make that very clear. I was not, but not yet anyway. But yeah, I had kind of a strange background. I started as a journalist attorney back in 1992, actually, a few years ago, and did that for about 5 years, and then ended up taking overseas postings as with the Asian Development Bank, and as their legal resource officer. And so I spent some time in Central Asia there, and then happened to come across a commercial manager for Unocal Oil, and was recruited to the dark side of the oil and petroleum industry, and worked there as in-house counsel, and with Chevron after Unocal was purchased by them, and then for several years, and then went on to work with Saudi Aramco, the world's largest national oil company, for several more years as in-house counsel, and finished off with Kuwait Gulf Oil Company. And for my last, and then came back here, I decided it was kind of time to maybe ply my wares back here in America. I thought that, I noticed what I think is a kind of a gap in American businesses, in that small and medium businesses need lawyers need business attorneys just as much as the big guys.
Absolutely.
But, they can't afford to pay as much as a big guy. It costs the big guys about $60,000 to $70,000 or more dollars per month just to keep one of me in their stable for 24/7. So I thought, I do what I know how to do, what I've done for over 20 years, and that's be an in-house counsel, but yet target my clients in the small and medium enterprise sector, and be able to not be there 24/7 physically, but be available by email or phone call or something like that for smaller companies that need the same thing even more than the bigger companies, because they can't afford to take the hit on if something goes wrong.
Yeah,
with the big companies, they say, well, that's $500,000. Don't worry about it. But with us in small companies, if it's $5,000, we worry about it. And and so that's where I'm here to bring that what's the word I'm looking for? Service
Service.
to our local business people. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, great. And so let's talk about a couple of things, because I know, it weighs on a lot of entrepreneurs' minds that, they think that they have things off and running. And usually when you're starting out on a business, you think you don't need counsel, right? You don't need an attorney until you're a bigger fish, right? So what would you want to share or have entrepreneurs know about what they need to have in their hip pocket when they're starting a business?
Very good question. And I would say, when you're building a business, and it's building a business, when you're
Yeah.
starting a business, you're building a business. Now, would you
Mhm.
build a house without a good foundation or without blueprints? I think not. I mean, what kind of
Mhm.
house would you end up with?
Right.
Something like they have over in Saudi Arabia. But anyway, but um, but yeah, and so a good strong structure
Mhm.
of business can be had by not waiting until problems show themselves,
Mhm.
but by contacting someone like me and to guide you into having the proper policies, the proper corporate manifesto, and having the proper documents in place,
Mhm.
and making sure that the structure of your company is optimum for your particular problem. And it's a thing, it's not one size fits all. I mean,
Okay.
you not only have different sectors that have different things that affect them, but
Mhm.
you also have sizes, and you have location, where you might be if you're in Yakima. There are some things that are different than if you were living in Moses Lake or something like
Mm.
this.
Okay.
So
I figured that all of Washington State was like under the same legal umbrella. So that is news to me. So thank you for sharing that. Okay.
well, yes, I mean, in some ways you're correct. It is under this same legal umbrella, but there are also, we have several layers of
Mm.
government. And so
Okay.
you have county layers, you have city layers, municipal layers, and that kind of thing. So you're working with federal, you're working with state, you're working with your local governments, and so that adds problems. But there's also it just depends on your target clients or customers. They might be in a certain sector, and so if you want to make sure that your business can provide its optimal service to the sector,
Okay.
you're going to have to make certain little adjustments for the benefit. That's what puts you above the rest of the collective group that's providing the same service, is that your business is honed, your service is honed to that particular customer. Whereas a person who hasn't had the benefit of a lawyer or business lawyer,
Mhm.
I wouldn't say, great generalist lawyers are great, but I don't think you'd go to a heart doctor if you had an eye problem or something like this. It's best to go to somebody that's had a lot of experience
Mhm.
dealing with all the things you deal with in a business.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that's about it.
So
Somebody
let me
posted
ask
on
this
social
question.
media.
Oh, sorry, Tony. Go ahead, Tony.
Oh, I was just saying, somebody just posted on me. It says you don't really need an attorney until you need an attorney, and by
And
then
by
you
then,
really need an attorney.
And you really
uh,
need an attorney.
you
Good, well
know,
said.
and that is so true. And
Mhm.
that's how we think. But it would be it's much the same as like what would I say, a bookkeeper or an accountant or something like that. You
Sure.
wouldn't wait until you ran dry of cash and you didn't have any uh, liquid assets to keep the company going. You
Mhm.
wouldn't wait until that. You know, you as soon as you get on board, you're either doing your own books or you have somebody else doing it. And
Mhm. Mhm.
it's best to have somebody else doing it that does it for a living and knows all the ins and outs.
Right.
and can do much better than I can. I can actually add 2 and 2. So, yeah, and it's the same thing with an attorney.
Yeah.
It just
So,
makes life so much easier, cheaper.
yeah, cheaper in the long run.
It does. I mean, you'll have. I mean, it's a question of like the the comment that was brought in.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 80 or 90% of businesses and people in general wait until they have a big problem. They try to take care of it themselves, and then they
Sure.
call them in. It's like you have a fire in the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we wait until the house is completely engulfed, and then we call the fire department. And so the damage is done. Mitigation, there's limited what you can do to mitigate the damages, and it's going to cost a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
So attorneys, a lot of times we say, well, you can pay me $1,000 now, or you can pay me $20,000 later.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's up to you. And in the end, we're
Right.
there. But
Right. So
you're
I
doing
have a
yourself.
question.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I do have a question because you had mentioned something where you said it's not just general, right? So not to look for just general. So, and I don't know if you can speak upon this, but what about like legal Zoom, right? People go, oh, I have legal Zoom and that's how I'm using my document. So I'm good. What do you say to something like that?
I would say, would you wear your kids' clothes? And if you did, how well would they fit? How well would they cover you? And if you're going to a place these places are good to get general things and general documents, but it would be, you cannot get it to fit you, to tailor to you and your particular instances. There are different risks involved. My company has a different risk than Tony's. And then my company has a different risk than Monica's. And we can both go to LegalZoom, or we can both go to Rocket or whatever. I don't know if I can say that online, but anyway, we can get some good documents, yes, but they're going to be very general, and so they only provide you with a general cover, and it's so much easier. I guess it's like racing. If you were racing, in the Indy 500 with a car off the lot, rather than having a car that's been specially, performance enhanced to be able to compete in that race. And it's the same thing. And here with businesses nowadays, it is very important for us to be able to compete and to show how we are, where we are amongst our peers, because there's hundreds and thousands of people that do the same thing we do. But how are we different, and how are we better? And a lot of that starts with, just building the right foundation, the right structure of your business, and having the right optimization so that you can provide the best service to your clients. And that way they'll keep coming back and back. I say clients, but I could be customers. I just have clients in my head. So.
Well, I like the word client, so I will stick with that one. Okay. Now, I do have another question. So, we've talked about contracts, you and I, because, as contracts, you feel like, okay, I got things covered, I have a general idea. But then how do you know that it's, ironclad? What if somebody, and I've seen this with somebody who they own a restaurant, right? I'm not going to name any names. But they do catering. So the gentleman, he got an order from a client and for a wedding, right? So he went ahead the week ahead. He, bought all of everything he needed to make the meals and everything. And then the people can't, backed out at the last minute. So what kind of recourse does that person have if they don't know what their contract reads?
Well, that happens more often than not. And what happens is that if you've gone that far down the road, your recourses are very limited. You can try to settle with the people. You can try to mediate with the people. You can take them to court. All the court thing is, it can be very expensive and time consuming. But, if you bring in a lawyer like me, a business lawyer in the upfront, then we're able to provide what we would call remedies within the contracts themselves. So let's say, for instance, with your example, what he could do is, I'm saying it's a he, I don't know, what he or she could do is they could have some sort of, deposit, non-refundable, or something like that.
Okay.
Something like that, or some sort of provision in the contract that says, look, if you do pull out within a certain amount of days, and so you have all this, you can say, okay, within 10 days, within 15 days, because it depends upon,
Sure.
what kind of long lead items do I need to have in order to be ready for them. So I want to make sure that I'm not getting, you want to make sure it doesn't get stuck with you and you get stuck with the check. And
Right.
so you want to make sure that if it's the customer that's making that decision to pull the plug, then it's the customer who should, pay for that to reimburse you, so that everything stays fair. So if you set up the contract beforehand, it's so much easier, because then you can put in all of these little extra things, and everybody knows, okay, if I pull out at the last minute, I'm going to have to pay such and such, and then I'm in a much better place. I'm not stressing, and I know
Sure.
that even if they do pull out, I'll get reimbursed for my outlay, and it makes for, it's cheaper, it's easier, and it's a lot less stressful.
Okay. So
What makes
question, go ahead, Tony. Go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. I was going to say, what is your most popular? I don't know. I want to say popular, but out of all the businesses that you do service, what is the most service that you provide for them? I mean, what's the most case scenario that you're using?
I think, it's thinking, it's kind of hard. I do all the thing about what I do is it's so interesting, because there's so many different businesses out there. So, I mean, I've represented grocery stores, I've done several grocery store sales, and a lot of contract and construction. That's a real hotbed. And I've even represented a tarot card reader. So, I mean, it just runs the gamut.
Did they?
Well, she told me not to talk to you, Tony, but I'm still doing that.
It was in the cards.
That's right. Yeah, but I just like you too much, so I'm going to do it anyway. So, but I would say the majority is people who get themselves into contracts because they don't have a contract specialist attorney.
Sure.
We don't like to say specialist in law, but someone who does that a lot. You have them at the upfront, get the contract already, and then it really makes it much easier down the line. And then, but I'd say the problem, I think if there's one single problem that people come to, it's after the contract. We tend to think, well, I've got this contract, I'm going to get it signed. Good, done. Now I can go off and do. That's when the work starts. It's like with the marriage. You get married, okay, it's not done, it's just starting. And it's the same thing, when you contract with someone, it's like a marriage. It's a business marriage. Sure. And that's when the work starts. And people tend to say, okay, now hands off, and I don't need to worry about it. So you get a lot of people that end up inadvertently changing the terms to their agreement, because I think I probably mentioned to both of you offline that there are, you can change the agreement just by course of business. I continue to let you do something and it's not according to the law, to the contract, but I continue to kind of let you do it in practice. That amounts to a waiver, and we've, in essence, we've modified our contractual interaction. I can, I can do something, even saying in emails, actually in Washington, by email, you can make modifications. So you have to be very, very careful about what you're doing. So what I try to tell my clients is change orders, because the contract is your castle, and it's got the walls, and you're safe inside of that as long as you stay inside the contract. But
Okay.
as soon as you start deviating from it, you're going outside of the walls and you're not as protected as you were. So you want to make sure that if you do make changes, they are what we call memorialized. They're put in writing and they're right there, and it's very specific. And you still have your remedies, because remedies are very important. What do I do if, and because a lot of times, people have these great contracts they got from our brother's cousin or something, and it worked great for the brother's cousin. But oh no, this has happened. And what do I do now? Well, you don't have the remedies in your castle. It's kind of difficult. So, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, the wise thing too is, you have all these contracts that you can get online, like LegalZoom, and you have all of these, I don't know, where you can talk to an attorney for $65 online or something, some guy behind a curtain type of a thing. So, and half the time, I mean, people who go and do those like LegalZoom thinking they have all this legal stuff, in the long term, it still didn't cover them.
Right.
I'm not going to down talk the attorneys that do that, because I think they provide a very good service.
Yeah.
I would simply say, do you want to buy your suit off the rack? I was going to say Sears, but there's no Sears anymore. But do you want to buy your suit off the rack at Walmart? Or do you want to buy your suit, and have it tailor-made to you? And with the services that I provide, I can deliver that for quite a low cost, so that it's the same thing. I can give you the same. I mean, what I used to get paid tens of thousands of dollars a month for working for the big oil companies, I can provide to you for, just a small little fraction of that. And on purpose, because I want to make it so that it's cost effective, and it saves you money in the end, like anything else. Like it's just like an insurance,
right?
And would you not have insurance on your house or your car? Well, even if there wasn't a legal obligation to do so, no, you wouldn't. And when you're getting something offline, you're not quite sure, it's not optimized to your particular problem. You're putting on other people's clothes, and it's a one size fit all. And it would be like me walking around in a muumuu or something.
I don't want to envision that.
Because if I ever come back, I can wear one for you.
So I have a question. So what advice would you give to somebody who's the first time out there seeking legal representation? I mean, because you can type in attorney, right? Like on Google Business or something. And then, but how do you know who's the right fit, or what should they look for?
Well, I think it would be the same as any other professional. If you feel comfortable with the person, if they come across as knowing, your particular problem and understanding it and having a good rapport with you, because, there's a lot of personality involved. It'd be much the same as if I'm trying to find a general practitioner, to be my principal physician. And, I might not like Dr. X, but I might like Dr. Y. And I think that he understands me better, my situation, and the various things that affect me. And you can develop a better rapport. So, all lawyers have gone through law school. Well, most of them. And there's exceptions. But and we've all passed the bar. And we all have the, this continuing education that we have to perform every on a tri-yearly or bi-yearly basis. So, we all know what we're talking about, but, it might be that, it's not in your area. It's not in your wheelhouse. So if you find an attorney that his wheelhouse is business, and that's all, like me, that's all I do is business.
Right.
And that's why I have the motto, your business is our business, our business. And you're going to, I'm going to be able to kind of zero in on the problem, I would think, much faster than someone who didn't, is kind of just doing everything.
Right.
it's good to have somebody who does everything at sometimes. I even refer out if it's, has to do with like a trust or a will or something like that, because,
Okay.
it's kind of a different area. So it's
Yeah.
good to have those. But in a business, and especially in these times, economic times, I think it's very important to have, your business is pretty much specialized, and it's important to have a specialist. I don't want to use that word, but I mean, you need to have someone that has had a lot of experience in
Sure.
in dealing with these problems.
And we'll call them specialists.
Yeah, and with experience, both of you probably seen this. As you gain, if you've been doing something long enough for years, you can start seeing out like 5 or 10 years. I can see where this is going. You're headed for a cliff, And so there's something to be said for more than just education, but also experience. And being a business attorney, if it's a business thing, I can I would argue much more easily be able to look forward in the future and say, I think you're headed down the wrong road here. I can see this happening because I've seen it happen so many times.
Right.
Do you do free consultations and stuff like that? Do you offer?
Yeah, very good. Not for you,
$1
Tony.
million.
Not $1 million. Yes, I do. And I give 3 free 30-minute kind of exploratory consultations where, talk to me, tell me your problem. I can tell you if I can help you or point you in the right direction if I can't.
Right.
And if I can, I can say, well, this is what I would do, and kind of give you a rough estimate of if I were to do it, how much it would cost. And again, then it's up to you whether you want to do that or proceed elsewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's good because a lot of people don't offer free consultations anymore. So
right.
You don't offer them?
No, I said a lot of people do not.
And you don't either because you're okay.
I don't.
He's $1 million. So what about somebody, because I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, right? Because that's what I do every day. But I talk to a lot of people also where they're like, I'm doing this little thing. It's on the side, but I'm not really, I'm not, they don't have their EIN. They don't have their bank account. They're just kind of doing it under the table, right? That's what you would consider. I mean, what kind of ramifications would they be looking at if someone was to come after them?
Well, you can lose everything, actually, because, the contracts are they're like an insurance company, an insurance policy. They protect you. And if you're working without a contract, or if you're working, outside of legal strictures, you can be found very easily to be personally liable. You can lose your house, you can lose your car, and your wife, because they tend to go with the car and the house. So, yeah, Tony's been there. So have I. So anyway, yeah. So yeah, that is, it's akin to walking a tightrope without a net, and you're just. You think, okay, yeah, it's a little side thing. Okay, yeah. And I'm only making, maybe $300 or $400 a month off of it. So, but remember that the risk is still just as big if you're making $300 or $400 off of it. If you're making $50 off of it a month, it's just as big as if you were making $10,000 a month.
Okay.
The risks are still there. And you need the walls of the contract to just kind of delineate whose obligation is what, and what are your liabilities, and what rights do you have, and all of that. So, I mean, it's a question of, you made 2 months of $200 each, so you made $400, but suddenly, somebody's suing you for $4,000. Right. So you want to be careful. And we do live in a very, very litigious society.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely do. So what are like some emerging legal trends or issues is there anything new that's going to be coming down the pike that people should be aware of? I mean, I know there's been a lot of changes in insurance, but I don't know about the legal side.
Well, insurance is really going through a shakeup because, you know, and I won't put on an insurance hat, but just to say that, you know, with the COVID and everything else that has happened afterwards, the insurance companies are really hurting, and they are, you know, they're eliminating certain policyholders because they say we just can't handle that, you know, and so
they eliminated me.
you all see, there you go, and it was hard to get somebody else, right? And that's because, you know, they have lost so much money. They're bleeding money. And so they're, you know, they're very, very careful, as they should be. You know, as a company, you're careful to protect your company. And then you be careful about whom you take as a customer. But so insurance, yes. And which I think makes it even more important for you to, you know, like use my services so that, you know, if you do run afoul and or you do lose your insurance cover, you at least have the coverage of your contract and the terms of your contracts and any follow-on documents like change orders and stuff like that, modifications to protect you. And if you lose your insurance as a business owner, if you lose a certain type of insurance or the insurance amount goes up, then you'll want to be able to perhaps modify your contract accordingly, so you maintain at least your margin, because you don't want to be working for free, and Lord forbid you don't want to be paying to work, and that happens a lot. People get upside down. So also, you know what the new thing I think is AI. I think it's a wild, legally it's a Wild West show out there now. Now, if you ask me what's going to happen, I don't know. I mean, it's still wild and up in the air. But I mean, I think that's the next big thing.
Ask the tarot card reader what the next thing is going to happen with AI.
You know, she can't get past Tony. The problem is that everything is.
Keeps on seeing the jester.
But and go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, that shirt is just giving me a migraine. No, that's even worse. So anyway, So I think AI, you know, another thing, little things, resources are getting more and more scarce. And you know, like water. So I have a friend. I'm not a water law lawyer. I have a friend in just up the road a ways, and he is. So I would go to him. But I think the scarcity of resources are going to make things more difficult. And then, of course, transportation problems that we've been having, I think that's going to continue. And also availability of goods is going to be a problem. And so, you know, it makes it even more imperative that a good, smart, forward-thinking business owner will, you know, provide in his contract so that he doesn't get. It's like a hot potato. You don't want to be stuck with a hot potato, right? You want to, you know, unless it's your hot potato, you want to be fair about it, but you don't want to be stuck with somebody else's hot potato, and that happens way too much. So, bless you.
So, last question for you is, what is, out of this conversation that we've had, what is one takeaway that people should really, especially entrepreneurs, right? Because that's really who we're wanting to help. What is one takeaway they should glean from this conversation?
I would, you know, I would really emphasize the fact that, you know, if you're going on a vacation, you know, what do you do before you go? You know, you find somebody to take care of the house and feed the pets, and you might get a full physical done on your body to make sure that everything goes well. And I think it's the very same thing, much the same thing anyway, with your businesses. You know, get a business attorney up front when it's still cheaper, and you don't have to, you know, be paying fire sale prices for an attorney after everything runs the fowl. But
Mhm.
yeah, get an attorney up front, get his good, the use of his experience and his good suggestions, and and then follow those, and it makes life easier, cheaper.
Okay.
And any one of us out there who's been, served with a summons or something like this, that the sick feeling you get in your stomach.
Mm.
You feel like you've been hit out of left field, and it's not a good feeling. And there's enough of that in our business lives. We
Mhm.
don't need to allow other things to be added on. So yeah, before you go on these things, before you go on this wonderful holiday of building the business, you want to make sure that you're as healthy as possible, and you want to make sure that your building your business is going to be done in the best possible way to maximize your benefit, and to minimize risks and negative impact.
Yeah. Wonderful. And so if somebody was interested in getting in touch with you to talk to you further on those 3 free consultations.
Yeah.
What's the best way they should do that? Should they call you, or should they go on your website? Which is a better avenue for them?
The best way is to call me.
Okay.
Or you can go online. Calling isn't really the best way. I don't know why I said that, because a lot of times I'm not available because, I'm doing my thing with other clients. So the best way is to, you can call my receptionist and book a time, would probably be the easiest way. And so may I give my phone number out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've given Tony's out all the time everywhere, but I'm going to give mine out. So oh, by the way, you're in the restroom at the rest stop off of exit 8. Your name and number. Okay. Anyway, so I know because I put it there. But anyway, my number to my main receptionist is area code 509 676 9796. And if you call that, they can book a time for you. That'd be the easiest, I think. You can also reach me online off of my webpage, and you can book from the webpage. That's very good.
Yeah, that was Tony right there. Thank you so much.
He's more than just a pretty face, isn't he?
He is. He's got all the magic behind the scenes you just don't know about.
I am. And then you can reach on my webpage, which is www.lexpedient.com, and that's LEXEPEDIENT. I had to stop.
And I know that on your website, you actually have a calendar where people can go, they can look at it, and then they can do the consultation through there. So
several ways you can do. Yeah. And you can get to the same horse in the barn if you call the phone number. It all goes to the same place, and then you can pick a time that I'm available off the little booking thing there.
Yeah.
And then we can do it. I like to do it with virtually like this, so we can see each other, but I will do it by phone as well if need be. But yeah,
sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Robert, for your time. I know you're busy, and for sharing your knowledge and helping us to level up our businesses. I really do appreciate it, and love to have you back. And we can talk about another hot topic and go from there.
Very good. I really do appreciate that. And I just noticed that you have my direct line now here.
Yeah, I cheated, so I'm sorry. So everyone's going to be calling you right now.
Well, no, it's just if you do it through the receptionist, it's much easier, and you'll get through. So that's 979. Yes, thank you.
Which is the correct number right there. That's why Tony popped that.
You can try the other one, but I'm not always available to pick that up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thank you so much for having you, and I hope that I've said something that can be a benefit to our community. and
Yeah, absolutely.
help people live a more healthy. You should be able to spend your time in your core business, working on your business, and not on all this other stuff
Right.
that comes with it. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
very good.
Yeah. And I want to thank you to our listeners for hanging in with us and learning some things about business and attorney law and who you need to contact when um, you need that resource. So if you've enjoyed this episode, you want to support us, like us and share it so we can continue to help to reach out to other entrepreneurs. Thank you.